Check, check, check. Good evening, everybody. It's so good to see you all. Welcome back to another Video Helpline live stream where we're going to be answering your questions, talking about a bunch of random other stuff. Let me know if the audio quality, sound levels, things are okay, and we'll dive straight in. So, several people already in the chat, including Parker. We've got James Pressy, Don. Welcome for the first time, Don. Good to see you. Wooter, Formidable Frank, and Mr. Camera Junkie, who's been real faithful with these. Awesome to see you, man. We've got Greg, Coyote, Josh, and others. So welcome, everybody. And I saw we've got a couple people who are making it for the first time. Awesome to have you. And Ray said, I saw while we were doing the little intro there. By the way, thank you guys for the kind words about the music. Glad you enjoy it. Me too. Ray says, glad you're, I'll have this broadcast. Glad you're streaming this week. I wanted to ask your opinion on paint, color, and a new studio. For a new studio, gray, white. I'll mostly be making interview and talking head videos. Fantastic question. We're going to come back to this in a second, Ray. But first, I want to address a couple things before we dive into the show. So get your questions ready, and we will get this party started. So, number one. After this stream, I'm headed over to Jem Schofield's YouTube channel, The C47, where we will be planning our next camera challenge, and it's going to be a weird one. We are going to be going to wish.com and purchasing a camera kit, so it ought to be pretty ridiculous. I don't know that much about Wish other than a lot of people go there, and it's like, I don't know, it seems super spammy. You buy stuff, something ridiculous like a Canon 5D, or let's say Canon, I don't know, R6, and it's $300 or whatever, and it's clearly you're not going to get an R6 for that. So anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to hang out over there. So I'm going to excuse me, I'm going to drop a link into the chat to that video or that stream, which is going to start, I don't know, 10 minutes after this one ends. So if you want to continue to hang out, you can head over there and it'll be a good time. Thing number two, we talked about it a little bit the last couple streams, but people keep asking me about this light in the background. It's an old video light that I converted to LED as a prop. And I've been meaning to look it up, and I finally did. And so we can talk about that, and I'll show it to you guys because I get asked nonstop about this light. So let's go ahead and switch over to Google Images. And this is essentially what I bought. It is a Berkeley Colortran Mini Brute 6. So this is what it looks like. You can find them around the internet. I got mine, I don't remember how much. It was like $50 to $100, and it had 6 lights. I'm going to drop this in. We'll see how long it lasts here on eBay. But I found one just before the stream here, and it's already conveniently painted white. And this is a 9 light or 9 bulb. So I'll drop that in the chat if anyone wants to pick that up. Let's see. Whoop, Infinity. Sorry about that. There we go. So that's now in the chat. And $150, $30 shipping. This is in Tennessee. And yeah, that's a fantastic light as a prop. It's already wired up. So you could, convert this to a prop. do all kinds of fun stuff with it. So this is pretty much the same thing, except this one has 9 bulbs instead of 6, which is more awesome. I almost bought this before the stream, and I'm like, no, I don't need another thing to be clogging up my life when it comes to gear, and I'm sure somebody out there would appreciate it. So there you go, pretty sick prop, or just a cool thing to have in your pad, or man cave, lady cave, whatever, it's gonna work for you. So that's the stuff I wanted to just get out of the way. Now let's dive into questions. We're gonna start with Ray's question because I think it's a great one. What color do you paint your studio or space that you're going to be filming in? I've gone back and forth. Traditionally, you would go with black, right? So there's no reflected light anywhere, and then you would build flats and do whatever you got to do, or use paper, whatever. But if you want to just film in a space and not have to deal with all of that, and you just want a good color, I recommend gray, and specifically kind of an 18% gray or a middle gray, something like that. If you go with white, it can look good. If you have a giant space, you can get away with a white. Because you can back away from it. You can get away from it, and when you set up a light and point it at yourself, it's not going to hit the background and blow out. That said, if you don't have a giant space, definitely gray. White can just wash things out, and you add any light from any direction, and suddenly you have a non-removable fill on the side of your face, and you'd have to bring in flags, and it turns into a disaster. So what I would recommend you do, I don't think I have one with me, but get a color chart, one that has 18% or middle gray. Find a gray that you like on there. Take that thing to Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever you're going to get your paint. Get a bunch of color chips. Bring them home. Those little sample chips you can bring. I'll close this, by the way. Sorry, guys. Boop. And, little piece of pepper was stuck in the back of my teeth and just worked his way out. Nice. You get your colored chips, you bring them home, you take your color card that your video checker card, you put it on a black table, you put your chips and little samplers that you got from the store, you put that on a table, light it with a high CRI light, and film it with your camera. This is super nerdy, but this is what I did for my entire studio and the color I went with. I did that whole process, brought it into DaVinci, pulled up scopes, and I found the perfect gray that didn't have a hue, right? So it's not like magenta, because grays aren't really gray when it comes to buying a paint color for your walls. They often have some kind of color attached. They're either too warm, too cool, magenta-y, purple-y, or kind of green. So that's what I did to come up with this color, which I'll just tell you what it is. It is the Benjamin Moore Platinum Gray, I believe is what it is called. Can't talk today. And just to confirm, let me switch over here. I think it's the code for it is PM7 Benjamin Moore. Let's see if that's the right one. Yes. So Platinum Gray PM7. This is the color that I have painted the entire 2,000 square feet of the space that I work out of. And it's been great. Really, really neutral, which is important because you don't want, a color chart next to yourself and then the background is slightly off and it just looks terrible. So that's the deal, and apologies if no one cared about that and that was a huge waste of your time. But paint colors, it's really important, right? So let's go ahead and dive in. Oh, good to see you, Bart. Sorry, guys, I'm behind here. I'm going to jump down to the bottom. We already have a super chat from the generous Keith. He says, I have learned lots from you. Well, thank you, Keith, and thank you for your donation. All right, boys and girls, let's get in. Anybody have any questions, any topics you want to talk about? Anything going on in the news? I haven't really caught up with anything or checked the news recently, so there might be a bunch of stuff I'm missing. Cool. People are talking about colors. Let's see. I'm going to scroll up here. Okay, Chris. Hi, Caleb. I have a question about vintage lens kits. Should I limit it to an 85 or add something like a 135 to the lineup? Chris, I would say that's completely up to how you normally film. I find I rarely go over 80, but again, I'm not out. I don't do a lot of landscape or portraits or anything like that. So you know, if you feel like you want to go for it, go for it. And often those focal lengths, specifically 135, is one of the more affordable ones. So hey, for another $50 to $100, depending on what lens lineup you're going with, it would be worth just grabbing one and throwing it into the kit. All right, speaking of lenses, Matt drops a question: do you still recommend the Shannon 135-2.8? Or do you have a new favorite for a tele prime? So I never said those lenses were my favorites, but they're amazing because you can buy an entire set, or at least at the time of the video. I haven't checked prices recently, but at the time you could buy an entire set of lenses for the same price as like a good Canon FD or Nikon Prime. So as for 135s, my favorite, I mean, I like the Russian stuff a lot. So there's a lot of really cool, what is it? The Jupiter something. But there's a lot. So a great way to find one is search on eBay for 135 millimeter M42 lens. So M42 lens, you're going to find a ton of stuff. Or M39 is another good mount that you can adapt. Okay, jumping on down. All right. Let's see. Let's jump in with Josh. So I'm going to pick up and try to stay on top of things, guys. What are some good modular set pieces for generic corporate video sets? Set pieces. You talked about kind of like set design. Lights are always a good way to go. I like lights, plants, having just a bunch of paper backdrops. You can go to like Home Depot, buy some lumber, paint it white, and build a little structure to put in the background. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. But yeah, usually kind of like I like plants and lights. So you'll notice in my normal A-roll set on YouTube, I have some C-stands for just a little bit of interest. Something reflective is always nice. And then I've got a lamp there. How about the Ursus 12K for 6K? I know, that's nuts. I can't believe they dropped it that much. Like, I get like maybe 1,000, 2,000, but I want to be a fly on the wall in that meeting when they came up with that decision. It's amazing. All right, Andrew says, is ProRes RAW worth it on the A7S III? I just got rid of my Ursa Mini and I'm worried I will miss it. But looking to buy the A7S III, definitely try it. Actually, a little plug. I'm finishing up my A7S III guide right now, so that should be available in the next couple of weeks. And in there, we talk about RAW. I mean, it's incredible. The color, it's amazing when you compare them side by side, recording internally and externally. It's so rich. There's so much you can do with the color. That said, as you know, Andrew, from dealing with RAW, you're having to deal with noise, even cleaner stuff that normally would be clean on the camera. When you record RAW, you're dealing with noise because the camera isn't processing all of that. So if possible, rent a Ninja 5, give it a shot, and see if you're going to like it. Yep, we talked about the price drop. That's nuts. What camera would you recommend for under $1,000? Nothing that I'm wild about right now, but I'd have to give it to the Canon RP, which is what is filming me right now, or the Canon Sony A6400. Other than that, if you want to go cinema camera, you can actually pick up a Sony F3 for that amount as well. I've done a video on the channel if you're okay with HD. But yeah, probably those cameras, and I hate to recommend the A6400 because of the 8-bit, but I've done videos on their color and how you can fix that, so it's definitely still a good idea, or a good option for under $1,000. All right, James, question about screen capture. Do you ever perform color grading on your video content captured on your desktop? Excuse me, my glasses are all greasy and sliding around. I don't. I just go with it. I do make sure my background or my desktop background is gray, but yeah, I don't mess around with that stuff. That said, I'm in the Apple ecosystem, and screen capturing always just looks really good. So if you're on a PC, you might want to play with that, but in general, I would avoid it. The TAR is nice, 135. Yeah, great lens for sure, Andrew. It's a beast if you're talking about that like monstrous lens. Ordered the Tamrac Stratus 15 bag today. Any other recommendations for a bag that fits a rigged 6K Pro under 100 euros? I'm not a huge bag nerd, so I don't really know, and I mean that in the best way possible. I wouldn't really know. My favorite, I love Porter Brace hard cases, so I don't like backpacks for stuff like that. I like to be able to grab a rig and just pull it out of a bag and shoot it and then just put it back in. And for that reason, the Porter Brace cargo cases are awesome. Hey, can OBS on a laptop replace an external monitor when filming at home or studio? For some stuff, yes, LiDAR, you could go that method. The problem is your settings, how good your computer is, what kind of data rates you're working with, because a lot of the recordings you're going to deal with there are going to be lower bit rate, lower data rate, and you might run into some issues. So it's possible, but I would do some tests. And it might be kind of flaky, you know, when it comes to reliability. When speaking anything after watching it from a teleprompter, my eyes don't align to the center of the frame. Any comment on that? It looks like I'm reading text from somewhere. That's one reason I haven't dealt with teleprompters, is you've got to dial that thing in perfectly. I mean, I'm using one right now to see, you know, information as well as myself and make sure everything looks good. But when it comes to reading text, I would say don't have it too close. You want it further away from you. Make the text really big, and just do some tests. Play around. You got to dial that thing in until it's just right. And even though, you know, you want to make sure you're only reading the line that's right in the middle of the teleprompter, and that ought to help. I asked a question a while ago about the cage for an R6, but one that works with a battery grip. Found one and wanted to say Condor Blue has one that works with the grip. Nice. Thank you so much for updating us, Stuper Fox. Jupiter 9, there it is, Josh. That's what I was trying to remember. I always get the numbers all mixed up. Jupiter 3, 9, etc. 12. Jupiter 11. Hey everyone, good to be here. Good to see you here, Bailey. Have you had a chance to try the Midicon Speedmaster M4 or Micro Four Throws T1? No, I haven't played with those yet. I'd love to do a video. None of the manufacturers would probably want this, but I'd love to just line up all the Chinese cinema lenses and have a play and see what's going on with all that stuff. How are you monitoring with AirPods? I'm not monitoring my audio. I just am monitoring system audio. But I think there are plugins out there where you can do that, but the AirPods are going to be delayed, and so I normally wouldn't do that. Is the Canon RP still relevant in 2021? For some things, I think so, Orion. I'm using one right now for this stream. If you're shooting on the A7 III, will you choose HLG3 or S-Log2 or S-Log3? 8-bit seems incredibly difficult to grade meaningfully. I've done a video on this Formidable Frank, so if you look up, you know, DSLR video shooter, Sony color, but the hack is shoot S-Log2, don't do 3. And all this information is pre-A7S3. A7S3, there's different stuff. It's 10-bit. It's great. A7 III and older, you want S-Log2 for your gamma. Set your color mode to ITU 709 matrix. That'll give you the flatness of S-Log, but it'll give you the colors of Rec 709. Then you just go in and correct your, you know, contrast, maybe add a little saturation, and you're done. And it's gonna completely erase, not completely, but mostly erase all that nasty 8-bit stuff. Which camera do you recommend for documentaries, commercials, and short films? 6K Pro, FX3, FX6. If it was me, if I had the camera on sticks in a controlled interviewing scenario, I'd be tempted to go FX6. But I'd probably end up with an FX3, a couple of them, just bags of FX3s. I think that's a phenomenal camera for that stuff. We did that question. Awesome stream so far. But how do I make a studio space that's small, look big? How do I make a small studio space feel big? That is a great question. Full frame, a fast lens. Like, this is a tiny room I'm in right now. I can almost touch, I can almost touch the walls on either side. And that wall behind me is maybe 10 feet back. More like 8 probably. So, yep, get your camera up against the wall. Large sensor, and we'll cover this. I have a video idea coming up. We're going to take the smallest room in this building, or I might even at home take a closet and turn it into a studio space just to help you guys figure that out. Yes, Orion, we answered your question. I don't want to put you on the naughty list. Let's not do that. Holy spam, Batman. Yeah. All right. Would it be possible to increase slow motion for UK videos, pal, by shooting in 60? Yes, I think. You might get some weird calculations depending on how you take that 60 and turn it into 25p is what I'm imagining you're going to go with. Part-time films, welcome, my dude. Or dudette, I don't exactly fully know. Would you get a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, 6K Pro, or an Ursa Mini? That's a good question. It's going to come down to... That's a tough one. Probably ergonomics. And I know there's more to that camera than just ergonomics, but yeah, I'm not as familiar with the Ursa stuff. Bart is, if he's still in here, he can hook you up. He's an Ursa boy. Can you talk about the A7S III guide you mentioned in the video recently? So yes, going to be selling a guide just like all my other camera guides at academy.dslrvideoshooter.com. It's going to be 28 videos, and it's just everything you could possibly ever need to know about shooting video on that camera. All the little hacks and tricks and, you know, things that you can find when you spend way too much time poking around the menus. We talk extensively about getting correct exposure, LUT workflow, which if you've used that camera, you know that S-Log3 does some weird stuff to skin and yellows. No surprise, we've got a Sony camera on our hands, and so I'm finishing up a LUT that I'll include with that guide. I might actually sell it separately as well. So I'm still doing the final testing on that, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah. Okay, low profile folding softboxes with egg crates available. Low profile. That's a tall order. I mean, I'd like my softboxes big, so I go with a 60-inch. There's one we've talked about in previous episodes. Shoot, what's the name of it? I can't. Glow. Glow makes one, and it's the same depth as the Aperture smaller softbox. Would you recommend the Sony FS5 for 2021? Great question, Orion. We're gonna be doing. Oh boy, I'm sorry, man. I'm gonna have to put you in a little timeout. We got a little too much repeating. Got to give me some time to answer, my dude. Having trouble syncing time code with the Track E A7S III mixed pre6. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Is the problem me, or do you know of any? That's a tricky one. I'm not super well versed in time code, and especially not, you know, when you're mixing multiple different types of gear, that can get tricky. So I don't know if I can help you, Chris. It's definitely going to, you know, you need to make sure there's just so many things that could be going wrong there. So unfortunately in this, I can't really help you out, man. But hopefully someone who's smarter than I can see that and immediately be like, oh yeah, you got to flip the thing and turn the thing to that. And then maybe it'd work. James, follow-up question. What's your preferred screen capture software on the Mac? Mine at present looks lighter than it does on screen. Honestly, I've just been using QuickTime for a while and really, really digging it. What else we got here? Matthew, what's the best way to stream like this using a DSLR as a main camera? Honestly, well, the best is to buy an Atem Mini Pro, which is what I'm using now, an Atem Mini switcher. Then you can do things like this. You can say, let's go to the desk and have something, you know, over here. Or switch to, oh geez, switch to a display. In fact, in the description of this video, I have, wow, let's just do, oh goodness, bear with me. Just trying to put something on screen that isn't my streaming software. There we go. Something like that, you know, where you have your desktop and there's some cool hacks. You can customize a monitor setup with that. So in the description, I have a video talking about everything I use for this setup that you're watching every single Wednesday, which that's a thing, guys. Every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing this. So good times. Good question, though. Yes, Orion Ray is out of here. How do I get my work out there? Instagram, TikTok, as well as YouTube. Make content consistently and just put it out there. Share it on social media. Interact with communities, and that's how it goes. I don't know about TikTok. I'm not as privy to that situation. If I was him, I'd ban you. Yeah, we talked about that. Got that taken care of. How to set the camera in front without blink of glass. If you're talking about this kind of thing, a large soft light helps, because you can see this isn't bad. But if I take my phone and I have a small light source, that looks terrible, even though it might be the same brightness as that soft light. This big soft light makes it less awful. And then just move it up, customize the angle. So my light right now is probably like this, and then off at an angle like that. Maybe you swing it out a little more, add some white on this side to fill it in, and maybe you have to go higher with it. Or if you're filming a bald guy with glasses, which is literally the worst and why I hate filming myself, you kind of got to bring it back down, back it up, just move it around, see what you can do. Put your lights on stands that roll. It's a lot easier to move around. That's what I would say. Color grading course, which one would you recommend? I haven't found one that I would recommend necessarily. There's so many videos about color grading, and I don't know that I would recommend most of them, because a lot of it's crazy talk. And I'm not making videos like that because I can't really recommend. You know, if I do make a video, it's like, here's what I do. But hopefully there's someone has a master course somewhere, hopefully. But that's still kind of a black art. And hopefully we get someone to unlock all that for us. But there are videos on there. I know, what's his name? What's the guy on YouTube? Really young, super talented with DaVinci Resolve. Help me out, guys. It's slipping my mind, but hopefully you guys will help me out. Would it be possible to get increased slow motion? Okay, so we covered that. How to best record Zoom meetings without the host noticing. I'm not that familiar with Zoom. It's been a while since I've used that. Good mics for recording interior groups 4 to 7. Socially distanced in a non-treated room. Woo! Matt, that's a tall order. For 4 to 7 people, I mean, a great way is just lob everyone up, long cables back to a recorder. That's probably what I would do. Unless you're going to do shotties, in which case just get the same mic, make sure it's all the same so it's one person doesn't have a completely different sound. Oh boy, we're falling behind, guys. I'm going to try to catch up. What's your thoughts on the differences between the R and the R6? I've noticed several creators, they're making some great points from the great images from the R6. The R6 is amazing. It's going to be a huge leap up from the EOS R. So yeah, I would say definitely if you can swing it, go for the R6. Thank you for the kind words, Jamel. And at this point, guys, I'm going to scroll down because we're behind and we missed some super chats. One is from Neil. He says, love the channel, Caleb. Can you recommend a capture card that doesn't have sync delay with separate audio input and a headset? Camlink 4K has a delay. Thank you for the £5 donation, Neil. That one is tricky. A lot of those delays, are you talking about the audio coming in through the capture device and the audio coming and the video signal coming through? Because the HDMI delay is pretty much universal amongst the kind of cameras we're using for stuff like this. The audio delay along with it, that one you could go with. I mean, if you can swing it or want to, you know, it's more expensive obviously. But the Atem Mini, not the Pro or the ISO, but just the plain old Atem Mini, that should do the trick. It gives you multiple audio inputs and you can customize the delay. So for this setup right here, I can actually delay my audio source separate from the video so I can get them back in sync. So I would recommend going for that if you want to get perfect sync. Great question. Thank you for the donation, kind sir. Hey, Nate Film Tutorials. All right, scrolling back down. You people, you kind people. We got another $5 super chat from Thomas Benjamin. Any tips for staying in focus with a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 6K, new to cinema cameras and humbled by its autofocus? What autofocus, right? Okay, so you're going to have to go manual with this. There's things you can do. So one hack I've talked about is if I'm holding the camera, I don't have a camera, but I have this. Oh, I do have a camera. This terrible little tiny thing that we talked about in a previous stream. If you're holding the camera and you're filming something that's not moving a ton, let's say you're walking around somebody, you don't have to just constantly be like doing this number. You can set your focus and just use your body, right? If you're going around something, if I'm filming this microphone and I'm bringing the camera around, if I get too far away, I just kind of walk it back in. Don't feel like you have to ride the focus all the time. And the other is rigging, right? So this ergonomic is terrible because you're moving things around. So if possible, get some kind of grip that has focus on it so you can just do this, right? That's going to be a lot easier, and you don't have to deal with I'm moving this around even though my focus is going forward and back. So that's some things I would recommend to help out. But it is tricky, and it's just practice, man. Lots and lots of practice. Great question. Thank you for the donation. All right, we're scrolling down to the bottom. I'm going to try to stay on top of this. And James dropping another donation, $8.99. He says, thanks for all your help. Sorry, I can't read this. It's in the way. Let me just temporarily, we'll do this. Thanks for all the help with the questions. The channel, these live sessions, super useful. By the way, did you sand the color tray brew it before painting it white? All right, now I can move this back. There was some other thing on my screen. No, I didn't sand it. Well, first of all, thank you and for the donation and the kind words. This is why I started the channel. I think I saw a comment somewhere or someone asked a question. I'm like, ooh, I know the answer to that, and I can help them skip that difficult process of having to, figure something out. And yeah, I get like massively high on that. So here we are. So yeah, to answer your question, I did not sand. I just YOLO'd for all that white stuff in the background. So that means it's going to be maybe a little more sticky, maybe not as permanent. But yeah, it ought to be fine. And hey, if it starts to chip off, it'll look kind of cool and rugged. Okay, curious about a matched pair of small condenser mics XY config for 2 people at a desk YouTube show. Yes, you could do that. I wouldn't use them in an XY configuration, but you could totally buy a pair and bam. Now you've got 2 microphones for like $100 or $200. It's a great way to go. So good comment there, Alan. Is he recording audio? If he is recording audio on Zoom, you can use an external editor program to do that. Just saw this on Tascam. Nice, Vincent. All right, jump it down here. Matthew Falconer on Udemy has a great DaVinci color grading class. Thank you, Garrett. Perfect. What's your opinion on using DaVinci Resolve only instead of Adobe Suite? Thinking about leaving Adobe finally. I mean, go for it. Definitely try it. It's free. Just go through the workflow a couple times, see it's going to be possible. And if it is, do it, man. Jump that ship. Love it. Would you make a collaboration video with other YouTubers? I kind of have in the past, not as much on my channel, but I've been in other people's stuff. What I would love to do is this, but me over here and another person over here. So if you have people you'd love to see on the live show, I think it'd be great fun to have other YouTubers on. I've got kind of a list. I just need to it's scary going from me doing this and messing up to having someone else messing their thing up. So anyway, that's the goal, is I'd love to bring on guests, other friends of mine, people I haven't met that I want to meet, and just hang out here with you guys. Have a couple topics, and then maybe do a Q&A with them. Would be a lot of fun. Is the GH5 still good in 2021? I think so, and I've got a video planned for that, talking about the GH5, if it still holds up. What's the shadiest, sorry guys, I might be skipping some of these and I apologize. What's the shadiest low price online purchase, camera, lens, etc. that ended up working out? Well, I did that video on 300 or cameras under $300, and a lot of those were very surprising. Shadiest low price end camera. I mean, this one that we talked about on a previous stream turned out to be pretty decent. I don't even remember the name of it, but it's just kind of a generic, I think it's like a Raspberry Pi with a lens attached, essentially. There's lots of cool stuff you can do with this thing, so you can check that video out if you go to my channel, and then there's a live stream playlist because all of these go dark. They go unlisted when they're done, and you can find them all there, though. Have you ever online video edited services? Used online video editing service? If so, do you have one you recommend? I have not, Brian, so I really can't help you there. And Bailey Stone, $5 donation. Wait a second. That's not the right comment. Let's try that again. There we go. Bailey dropping the $5. Says, thanks, Caleb, for helping out this community. Always happy to support someone who helps his community. I'll be here for a while, man. Nice. Thank you. So that's super kind of you, man. Appreciate that. And Sarah, just below that, I appreciate all that you do. How do I set exposure, white balance, and changing sunlight? As soon as I set my camera up, the sunlight changes. So yeah, if you're in a situation where clouds are just darting in and out, your best bet is definitely still get your white balance set and leave it. So, 5600 Kelvin, whatever that is, 6000 Kelvin for you. And then you want to choose one way to affect your exposure and ride that one way. So as an example, your aperture, maybe that's the one thing you change, leave everything else the same, lock it all in, and then you can just ride that. A fader ND would allow you to do that. Or if you're constantly filming in this scenario, get a lens that has a declicked aperture, a physical one. So where you can spin the ring and it slowly darkens and slowly opens back up. That's your best bet. But you do need to pick one thing you can modify on the go and that you can do quickly. So, aperture, just click, 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 click. That's probably your best bet. Good question, Sarah. Are you going to review Tilta's cage for the 6K Pro with the EVF extender? Probably not. I'm not really reviewing cages. I have a rig video coming up for that camera because I don't have anything to show you, but I built that bump out that I talked about in a previous review. So 3D printed it. I actually got it to work with 2 XLR inputs, full size. So we'll talk about that in the future. Let's see. I see a lot of people placing right hand grips on mirrorless cameras. So I did so too, twice, then realized it's dumb. Is dumb levels of ergonomics. Do you agree? The right hand grip has all the controls you need and the left side has no grip. I totally agree. I complainer 100%. I do not understand why you would take a camera with a fantastic grip that's built onto it and add another grip further away from it. I'm a big fan of left-handed grips, and there was a period of time where you could almost not find them. This one right here, which I've talked about in the past, was at one time the only left-handed wooden handle on the internet that I could find. So definitely go with one of these. Put a NATO clamp on there so you can just pop that off if you don't need it. And let me know, guys. One video I've thought about doing, but I just feel like people wouldn't. It's a bit nerdy maybe, but I've been thinking about doing a 101 on rigging. So just everything I know about rigging, different parts, how to use them, what's the difference between a rosette, a NATO rail, spacing, how to rig different stuff up, cheese plates. Maybe we could turn that into a video. Maybe that's more of a live stream thing, but let me know what you think. All right, making sure I'm not behind on time here. We're doing okay. All right, I'm going to jump down because I've got some super chats going on, and I can't miss those. Mr. Ben, €5. Hi, Caleb. I'm looking at the GH5 Mark II, but I'm not sure. Mostly for music videos, live shows, that kind of thing. Under $2,500. Thoughts? Cheers from Ireland. Cheers, man. Let's see. I mean, for music videos and live music shows, if you're doing stuff at night, that might be more of a GH5S camera situation. Under $2,500. You could do that. Yeah, I might still try to do GH5S if possible. What is that running for now these days? I forgot to mute my phone. That's a good question. I would say, yeah, GH5S, unless you really need that stabilization, then get a GH5 and get some wickedly fast glass and a speed booster, and that ought to take care of you. So, great question. Under $2,500, man, I wish, you know, in 5 years, when the A7S III is down to that price or lower, then you're gold. I mean, heck, if I were you, I might even just save and just hustle, save a little more, get an A7S III with that Tamron 28 to 75, done. Easy. But good question, Ben. Thank you for the donation. I've been putting off buying a color checker for maybe too long. Good ones are kind of expensive. Talk me into it from Will. I mean, man, it's if you're never gonna stick it in the frame, don't worry about it. But if you shoot the type of things where you can, it's amazing. Get the pocket or the passport video, the little guy that opens up, and you're done. So good. All right. Okay, so I'm going to jump down here again, guys. I'm really trying to keep up, but I keep talking too long. Ted Harris means super chat $5. Thank you, Ted. He says late to the stream is another follow up here. Late on the stream, what are your thoughts on the new Studio Cam sticking with Micro Four Thirds, no B4 mount? I'm not a big broadcast guy, so I don't have too much to say about that camera. But yeah, definitely an interesting move because everything else they were really going after the broadcast. So very, very interesting that they did that. I hope they do something boxy. You know, we've been talking about this already for a ton. Cool. Lovely. Thank you for the donation, sir. Jumping down further, iComplainer coming in hot with $5. Thanks for agreeing. Left-hand grip for life +1 for 101 course on rigging. Okay, cool. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe one of these YouTube Tuesdays, which, by the way, I skipped this week, but next week we should be back. We'll do that. We'll just put a pile of gear on the table and just go through different categories. Super chill. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. All right. I'm scrolling to the bottom, guys. We're starting over fresh once again. 4:41. We're going to go for maybe, let's do like 4 more minutes. We'll do a rapid round. Regarding, okay, so Part-Time Films says he got one on B&H for $15. I think it's a good entry-level gear. That's a good point, Part-Time Films, to the gentleman who's asking about that earlier. You could just get a cheap color chart, you know, one that's not horrible, but something, and see if it's helpful at all. I think a good video would be using color checker, gray and white cards to dial in exposure and color. I've actually done that, Jeff, on my channel. I don't remember the name of the video though, but if you search for like color chart DSLR video shooter, it should come up. Do you need ND filters for shooting indoors? No, but it can sometimes be helpful. If you've got a giant wall of windows and sunlight blasting through, you'll be wishing you had some ND. Let's see. Silent Breaking ASMR with Caleb Pike. I'd watch this. Oh, man. Art grid or story blocks for filmmakers. Couldn't tell you. I have not used stock footage. Maybe ever. That said, back in the corporate video days, you know, that just feels so dirty to me. I'm not knocking anyone who's done it. We've all been there, right? But it just feels wrong to just like, yoink. Just put someone else's shot in your stuff. But you got to do what you got to do. And hey, it's a phenomenal way to add a lot to your footage. Okay. Let's scroll down a little more. I'm going to take a sip of water here. I love these Voss bottles, how big they are. But no matter what, I don't care how good your technique is, you cannot drink out of this thing without it spilling. That's why I was doing this weird hand on the chin thing. All right, what do we got question-wise? A7 III worth it for wedding videos in 2021, $1,500. Yeah, you can still make that camera work. Yeah, I'm just becoming that old guy who's just like, no more 8-bit, just no. But $1,500, if it was me, I might spring for a GH5. If you've got light, you know, maybe bring in an A7S or something for dark stuff, but I'd still want to shoot on an A7S, or I'm sorry, GH5 over the A7 III, just because that 8-bit color is so annoying. What type of wire is used for the Deity D3 Pro? I'd like a longer wire. So you should just be able to use any 3.5 millimeter cable. Depends on what camera you're going into, but for like a normal camera, a non-phone camera, that should work fine. Roll on Tuesday. Atem Mini or Atem Mini Pro. Before you said get the Atem Mini, not the Pro. Why? Well, the gentleman who asked the question, he was coming from a Cam Link, and he didn't really, I mean, maybe he does want a switcher, but that's the affordable one, right? The $300 one is the entry level. Personally, I think the Pro and ISO are awesome. The capabilities are insane, but if you're just looking to get a feed into your camera and want some audio controls, that first version is probably what you want. Could you provide some tips on exposing vlog for S1H? Absolutely. Overexpose by a stop and then pull it down in post. That's going to give you gold. That's pretty much every camera. And I'm trying to remember, but I think having a gray card set to around 50 IRE is what you want. So again, going back to cards, that you can get cheap. Get a $10 gray card off of Amazon, set it to 50, and you should be good to go. You can use their LUTs, Panasonic LUTs. You just might want to add a corrector before the LUT. So, you know, throw curves on there or a corrector, add your LUT, and then if it's too bright, you know, go back to your corrector and just drop that down a little bit and you're good to go. Super chat from Brent Rusk. $5. Love your work, Caleb. Just bought my first full frame Sony FX3. Nice. Thoughts on first prime 20 versus 24, plus the 24 to 105G. Woo, big spender up in here. No, I'm just joking. Probably 24. I mean, I would definitely get your zoom. If you're, let's say, you first full frame camera, I would buy your zoom lens first. Get comfortable with what focal length you're going to be using the most, and you might find you like 35, and both the 20 and 24 are just not going to cut it for you. So that's what I would do. Get that zoom lens in your life, see what you think, and then go out. Or rent. You know, if you're going to be dropping $2 to $3 grand on lenses, why not spend $80 in a weekend finding the perfect focal lengths? Great question, and thank you for the kind words. Good sir. All right. We're getting close, boys and girls. Scrolling to the bottom. We're done with Super Chat. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to shut down this beast over here, and we're going to head over to Jem Schofield's channel, youtube.com/thec47. Here is a link. I will be there in maybe 13 minutes, let's say, and we'll get that party started with the guys over there. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. It's been a blast. I really enjoy these. Hope you all have a lovely evening, and we'll see you next time.